in our schedule is our afternoon keynote, Sanford Dickert, who has braved the local rail network and joined us all the way from London to be in Cornwall with you this afternoon. I was introduced to Sanford by Laura and Nina from I Use Genius, who work with Sanford. And when Nina described him to me, she said, there isn't anything Sanford doesn't know about launching a product. Oh, and he also built a robot that appeared on The Big Bang Theory. So obviously I was intrigued. So Sanford works at the intersection of hardware, software and product development. He's launched over 100 products in Silicon Valley, New York and across the world. And in preparation today, I think it's safe to say we've spoken quite a lot. And I have been fascinated by some of his stories and I'm so excited that he's here to now share them with you. So please welcome Sanford Dickert.
Hello, everybody. Let's see. Do we have audio? Can you hear me all the way back there? Yes. Okay. I looked at this and I said, what the heck am I going to be talking about? I have no clue. Truthfully, that's the picture, right? What were you expecting to see? Because I'm loving the pink. I almost wore pink things for Barbie, but I didn't have anything for Barbie. Okay? When we started talking, this was the conversation. Hey, we'll talk about this at Cornwall. By the way, I want to make sure I point out that this was supported by I Use Genius, which is Laura and Nina, and they are a system change consultancy that I've been working with for a couple of years now. And so made the initial introduction. But I sat there and I said, hey guys, and guys, gender non-specific, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure because I'm used to it. I'm older. I apologize right now. I have a lot of things that I get into trouble with. I see men with my hair color and recognize that we understand this world, yes? Okay. And I assume Gail, you understand it too. Good. The summary is that I was thinking this is not what you want to hear about. You're startups. You're in Cornwall. You're trying to sit here and grow things. This is terrific when we're talking in large corporate situations, when I'm dealing with big businesses. This they want to talk about to their innovation groups and when you have lots of money. But it was my understanding we're talking about building businesses, getting past things that we're concerned about. Is that true? Am I hitting the right points? Okay. Because I have to tell you, I've been telling them for the last 3 days, I am terrified of this lecture. Why? I've been giving lectures since I was 10, talks. I literally got up and used to sing Yankee Doodle Dandy when I was in middle school because everyone was like, well, you're incredibly shy. That's sarcasm. I've been living here 24 years. Is it working? Okay, hang on. So one of the things I've always enjoyed is I love these books. By the way, I like to get in the audience. When I was, 14, I got all the way to the national level of a public speaking contest and found myself halfway in the audience. I got second place and was the national finalist. And I got all the way in there because I love talking to people. This is the thing I enjoy the most. Those books, you guys have seen it, right? Yeah? They're helpful, aren't they? Yeah. It doesn't talk about reality always. When we're making businesses, especially in a world that doesn't have free money, that's not the solution always. We have to figure out what's the problem, what's the solution, and how we're going to make it work. Yes? These are great frameworks, terrific frameworks. Funniest thing about that photo, can you guess when it was? Okay. I'm wearing that because that was my first real startup job where the CEO basically every morning would bring me into his office and he'd give me 6 things I had to do. Then after lunch, he'd call me into his office and he goes, I got 6 more things for you to do. They were in 22 different areas of the startup. Drove me crazy. One day at lunch, I went to a local mall, bought 27 hats. Came back after lunch. He started telling me the 6. I threw the bag of hats at him and I said, pick 3. I'll work on them this week. That's how I ended up helping expand the company because he didn't understand what he was asking for. He wanted everything done, which is what every founder has to go through. But it's about the prioritization, about figuring out the problems, about understanding the systems. My childhood inspiration, that thing. I happen to be Jewish, but my mother loved Christmas. And so she gave me that. And I was like, ooh, this is so cool. I want to make this. I was 6. So when I went to undergraduate, I started playing around with that. Men with my hair color are recognizing our CRTs. Yeah. Then this, unfortunately, I wish I had the video running. I can get it someday, but it's me about 7 years after that, with a very heavy wrist blowing on it. Imagine a huge wrist. You can see how large it is compared to my head. And I was blowing on it and it was moving just like a feather. That's another robot, an 11 degree of freedom robot I built out. Okay. All of these things eventually got to this. You guys all know that stuff, right? And I'm the guy without the facial hair. Okay. A roboticist talking to you about products. And the funny thing is everyone keeps going, well, how'd you start? That's my mom and dad. Okay. And yes, that's me on the left. That's my stepmother, who was my 4th grade teacher, who taught me also how to be better at public speaking. And so the question always comes up is, so why aren't you doing teaching or sales? I go, nah. I had to be something different. That's my grandma. She wanted me to make a difference in the world. She's not? Oh, wait, that's my grandma. She wanted me to be special in the world. And so she said, do what's good in your world. So what did I become? Computer science and electrical engineering with minors in psychology and communications. Because how else was I going to go on a date? I love psychology and communications. I love people. I grew up in a town like this. I mean, it's really funny. I say Florida and everyone goes, oh, you're from Miami or whatever. No, I actually grew up on a kind of a seaside town, a place called Plantation, which is in Fort Lauderdale. It's a suburban area. You learn to connect to people. But the interesting thing is that what makes a lot of money, what's all the high end is what? Words and math and science. And so you go into this engineering stuff and you spend a lot of time in linear, in numbers, but not with people. I could never do that. My undergraduate and graduate even, when I was doing my research in robotics, the funniest thing I was also, how do I tell you all this? I audited the Graduate School of Business because my department said I was not allowed to do it. And I wanted to understand product, and I was so frustrated. I wanted to dance. I loved dancing when I was a kid, and so when I went, I asked, can I do it? They said no. I said, fine, I'll do AV stuff. And so I learned dance through the dance division while I was running these systems. I believe that we miss out as founders on understanding how to balance ourselves, understanding the systems. And it's more than just numbers. It's more than just statistics. It's people. I've been doing it for a long time. When I went to Purdue, had all sorts of undergraduates teaching them how to program. My first year, I actually used to do computer science C programming when it didn't exist. I was even young in high school doing Fortran programming. Do any of you know what that means? Okay, yes, punch card. Yeah, okay, he's got gray hair too. See the people who have it. This is like going back. But recognize it's the fun part. Knowing the foundations and then being able to grow and expand into it to other ways so people understand. That's the combination of my mom and dad being salespeople, my stepmother being a teacher, and then me just loving people. I love this part. What I'm doing with you right now, engaging you, is what lights me up. I cannot explain it. And it's why I love making products. Because when I see customers or interact with customers and they're enjoying it, that's the light. And by the way, you get money for it too. Holy geez, isn't that the best part about making a good product or a service? Is seeing that satisfaction. Then our investor friends are always wanting to look for better margins and all of that stuff, which I agree with. And I totally do because I want it to continue. But you've got to start somewhere. You like that? I almost got all of the logos, because I've worked in all of those different companies at various points of my career. And the funniest part is, who cares? Those are the big companies. I didn't tell you about the little startups. Lots of little startups. Lots of founders. Do you know why? It's fun. We're solving problems. That's what my parents taught me. Oh my God, I had a beautiful, I'm sorry you can't see it, but there's a map of the world, and I was basically going to show you what I did. The funniest thing is what really confuses everyone whenever I try to get a job in this country. They look at my CV and they go, wait a minute, so in Silicon Valley you were a product manager, then you flew to London and became a CTO or vice president of engineering, and then when you accidentally met some guy at a barbecue, became the CTO of the John Kerry campaign, and then was doing social media, which annoyed the heck out of everybody with those damn emails and text messages. And we generated lots of money. And then after that, you went to New York to try to find, a life. You became a social media and e-commerce person. What in the world? And then, oh, wait, in 2010, I went back to doing robotics. That's that robot you saw. Please explain to me what I do for a living. Because I solve problems. My favorite joke is when I have all these different areas that I've done, okay? That's a lot of stuff from the corporates. I haven't told you about the other fun stuff, like kelp development. Who knew that I could talk to you about kelp, robotic kelp harvesting that would actually reduce carbon footprints and actually help the universe or the world in terms of nutrition, plastics, and oh wait, removing carbon from the atmosphere. Why in the world would a guy who does robots, or I'm sorry, did politics, did publishing, I can keep going on and on and on. It's problem solving that all of you can do, not just me. I apologize, just because I've had all this experience, my favorite line I tell people is, well, I didn't get married, whoops. Don't have any children, so I don't have those constraints. And then the other funny part is that I just recently got a mortgage. I just bought in London, finally. So now I have to worry about making money. Oh, jeez. Okay? But I wanted to leave a mark differently on the world. I wanted to help others. And then I returned to the UK. Oh, by the way, that was as of 2011. Okay? So I came back and started doing startups. I made a company having to do with security cameras. I hate surveillance. Hate it absolutely, but I wanted you to have control. You, regular people. And the problem was the Chinese products were really scary, and I wanted you to be successful in accessing it and not worrying about someone spying. That's what I'm doing today. Whoops. A lot of stuff. Oh, my BHAG. Oh, they got the wrong one, but there's a really cute one. The BHAG, by the way, it's called Project Moon Hut or Mirth Industries, in honor of Gail. Because what happened? Another friend of mine, I meet people all over the place and I end up talking to them and I start getting involved. Mirth Industries is essentially the idea that if we're going to solve the great world challenges, rather than trying to solve each individual challenge, the really amazing thing is to solve a big, hairy, audacious goal, and then we're able to solve from outside of it. My favorite line, the gentleman who runs it, his name is David Goldsmith, says, every phone you're wearing or you're using, where did all the tech come from? Was it an individual that said, ooh, I really want to make Corning glass. I'm interested in, really amazing cameras. It came from trying to get up into space. That is where all of that technology was originated from. So if you could do something like that, we could work on solving many other problems. It's a small project, $1.7 trillion over the course of 40 years, but hey, it's a small project. I also do a lot of work in just other technologies. I love talking with really smart scientists because if they are that smart and you ask the right questions and you structure it well, you learn that they're smart because they can answer. They're amazing. And that's why, for example, I'm working with a company that's doing Raman spectroscopy on a technology that doesn't destroy stuff. Two-thirds of you just went Raman spectroscopy. You guys know what that is? How about I say tricorder from Star Trek? Will that help? No, darn. Okay, good answer. Thank you. Remember when Spock, did you ever see Star Trek? Spock would sit here and go, wee, and then go, and that's a carbon-based life form. Whee! That's a silicon-based life form, right? The idea is that a tricorder requires some sort of sensing technology to determine what's the makeup. So there's various technologies that we've been using for 50, 60, 70 years. Spectroscopy is an old technology. But this gentleman has invented a brand new technology that allows them to do it without anything destroyed, and it's using light.
I've heard of this now. I've written about it for Cornwall Science Park.
Excellent. I'm loving it then.
And now I'm like, it was at the back of my brain.
And this is, by the way, this is my life. I love this. To get you guys to be inspired. All of that kind of stuff. Even this summer, I was bored. One of my favorite projects I was working on is an ed tech project, which is going to help students, as they grow, have a better LinkedIn profile so they could get better jobs and get education and style. Unfortunately, the state of Nevada canceled the project about 2 weeks ago. It was a great project. I was so excited. But while I was waiting for it to begin, my builder came up to me and said, "Hey, can we make a business? Have any of you tried to get builders anywhere? Do you know how good they are? You know how easy it is to find references?" I basically said, let's see what we can do. In the course of 9 months, we've turned around a business with students doing apprenticeships to figure out how to make a better builder business and doing it in a very informal fashion. All of this is just taking a chance, using structures to make it make sense. And you do it all the time with every one of your startups. I hope. Yeah? So why do I bring that up? Oh, yeah, this is what the joke my friends in the Valley call me. They call me Spackle. You guys would call me this. Okay? I'm startup polyphila. But I like saying this. I'm Winston Wolfe. I solve problems. Because that's what I love to do. Now, why am I doing all that? Telling you the stories are just a start, okay? The question is, what were the premises that got Nikki so interested? Well, what was interesting is I started telling her about 3 things I do all the time whenever I'm looking at any problems. How do I do it? I do this. I have a lot of knowledge, but I'm dumb compared to you. You've been spending time figuring things out, right? You have a puzzle, you have a business, you have a problem you've identified. You've had experience. My favorite part about making any business is you usually have a subject matter expert because you have to know what are the problems within it to be able to solve it, yes? But you don't always have people that can look at it differently. Seek to understand before being understood. That's what my parents used to teach me. My favorite story I tell my engineers, my programmers, you know what drives me crazy about programmers? I tell them to go fix something, they go immediately to the thing they think broke, and they go trying to solve it. And then they discover that they totally broke everything else in the system because they solved that one thing. Think of builders. Anyone have that familiarity? Okay. I always like this because I point this out. If I had 7 blind scientists looking at an elephant, what would they tell you the elephant is? Every one of them is right. And everyone doesn't understand the other. So why do I bring that up? Is that not what you face all the time with your businesses? With your family? With this community? Everything's a system. Everything. Do you understand that? I mean, is that something that makes sense? And I'm intentionally trying not, oh, by the way, I'm not here to I'm not selling you anything. I don't have anything to sell. I don't want you to hire me. If you'd like to, we can talk. That's the story. But I don't have a book. I don't have a philosophy. I'm just telling you what I like to do. That's how I've gotten so many interesting things. I love this. So I wanted to share. Everything deserves to be understood in context. I'm going to tease Gail a little bit, but not meaning to be mean. So I went ahead when I first got here 2 days ago. I was asking because I heard about the Space Center. I was really excited. Oh my God, this is Space Coast like I used to have in upstate Florida. And I went around talking to people in New quay. So sorry, American. And I kept asking, so what do you think of the thing? And they go, what, the big white elephant? I went, what do you mean, big white elephant? I didn't know what that meant at the time. And they, well, nothing's happening. I mean, it's just something in January and that's it. They don't understand what's going on. They don't know the system. They don't know the situation. They don't know what's happening. I get frustrated because they don't understand the context of where the situation is. Just because you had one launch of Virgin Galactic in January does not mean that's the end of it and it's a good or bad thing. What does someone say? Whinging all the time? The Brits like to whinge? Yeah, Brits like to whinge. Gee, guess what? So do Jewish people in America, in New York, and in the Italians, and everybody whinges, okay? But everything deserves to be understood in context because we have to grow it better to make a better context. So I'm going to show you three concepts. Well, three-ish. Everything is a dynamic system. What the hell does that mean? What's a dynamic system? Is a rock a dynamic system? Hello? What? If you keep throwing, oh, you mean if you have something on the outside affecting it, you see the rock changing. Everyone watch Everywhere, Everything, All at Once? Yeah. Remember the rocks? They eventually moved, right? Systems are dynamic because they change with time. Everything is a dynamic system, right? You are a dynamic system. Your family is a dynamic system. Your market is a dynamic system. Dynamic systems are modeled with numbers or understandings. That's the way I lived for 10 years. That's what a dynamic system is. What goes in, what goes out. Something in the middle I have to understand. So things are dynamic systems. Concept 2. Everything's in a feedback loop. Hey, Eric, I didn't forget you. Okay? Everything's a feedback loop. The funny thing is, that's a feedback loop to me. That is confusing, isn't it? Scares you, right? It's you. As I'm talking to you right now, do you understand that I'm responding to his nodding, to her where'd she go? There was a woman up there just reacted to me. Oh no, blue lady. I am responding to people's faces and reactions and noises to be able to expand the conversation. I'm engaging with you because you're engaging with me. This is the feedback loop that allows me to do better on the controller side to get you to learn and understand. The sensor, you know what the sensor is, right? Ears, eyes, right? Everything is a feedback loop. What's really funny is that everyone sells books that tell you this thing in a various new way. Gamification. Do you remember gamification? Isn't gamification a loop? Hang on, is there any other loops you know? A/B testing. Optimization. Continuous integration, continuous deployment. Anyone know that one? Software guys here? Software people here? Yeah? Is it not a loop? Everything's a feedback loop. You have to learn it. You have to optimize it. And there's also what you want, that's the X, and what you get, that's the Y. The error is what happens if you don't get it. Improvements only come by making mistakes. I heard in the beginning keynote, somebody was talking about the fact that 20 years ago, we weren't allowed to make mistakes. Yeah. Sorry, engineering teaches you the only way you improve is by error. Are you all comfortable with mistakes nowadays? I've lived here 24 years, just to point out, and in the beginning, you guys would never admit making mistakes. It was hilarious. It'd be like I could ask a question and I would get the weather or the time if I was asking something you did wrong. How are you today? Better? Why? What's changed? What's changed? I heard her say that society we changed. What changed? You can make mistakes, but is it wrong? Do you get destroyed for making a mistake?
You kind of do now.
Why?
Cancel culture.
That's cancel culture. That's when it's public in that regard. But what about within your community, within the team that you build, within a community that establishes a norm? It's the system that you have to make sure has those norms that say Failure's okay, and you can grow from that. My students, I brought them in. I didn't pay them a dime, by the way, just to let you know. They only worked 20 hours a week. I made sure they didn't do as much. But the funniest part, I said one thing: make mistakes. Tell me the mistakes and then fix it. And then don't do it again. Suddenly we had great landing pages, even though he ended up costing me £1,000 for a little bit. Guy messed up, okay? Somebody was doing all sorts of data collection. He didn't know Python, but a week later he did, and now we have a whole data set. Making mistakes and allowing that to happen and me establishing that culture. Error signal helps you improve. Do we agree? This is my other favorite one. Everything should be chunked. Chunk it. You remember Chunky? Chunk? Yeah, Chunk from Goonies. Sorry, I'm really having fun. A lot of you anyone that was born after 1990 is sitting here going, what? Okay. The idea is that everyone looks at things as black boxes, right? Black boxes. What's a black box? Well, a black box can be deciphered. Just to let you know, all of you are black boxes to me. But as I'm interacting with you, I'm seeing responses. Mr. Stripey here, I'm having fun with. I notice you. I see you. I know the authority level, okay? I saw some guy up there who's definitely software engineer and knows the stuff, like the Goonies. Up there, I can identify different people by breaking up the audience. You guys are this big black box of, oh my God, I'm terrified. As I iterate through, you're less terrifying. You're more engaging. I can find people to connect with. I begin to break it down. I teach my engineers and anyone I work with this basic concept, which you know already, you just don't know it this way. Remember writing outlines? Yeah, top level, second level, third level. The funniest thing is when you normally go to solve a problem, what do? Run and fix the component, which I think we talked about breaks the rest of the system. Better start from the high level. Do an initial pass, do a second pass, do a third pass. Does that sound like iterate, test, iterate, all that other crap that we heard? The challenge is that not many people are doing it because they're all rushing to solve the problem. They're not taking a breath. The other part, which always makes me laugh, they don't understand it from within the whole. And my 3B is you got to make sure you explain what the chunks are. I'm going to give you a word, and I'm going to ask you to define it in your head. What's that mean? If you're a programmer, I know what you think. If you're a lawyer, I'm pretty certain I know what you think. Okay? If you're a homemaker, if you're a dad, if you're a financial manager, if we don't have a definition that the team understands, we break down. Remember my 7 scientists? What I do in every one of my projects, whoever I'm working with, any client, I start writing a glossary. Because if we don't have an understanding together, it fails. Can we work on understanding, a common understanding? I'm from America, where I literally have at least 3 media spaces: Fox News, CNN, and whatever the rest of the QAnon group is, okay? And I keep trying to understand everyone. Because if I'm not understanding the whole, I'm living only in a small solution space that doesn't optimize. You have to understand the whole. You have to take the time. Does that make sense? Yep. All right, and then one of the things, I don't know if I mentioned that I teach in China periodically. I literally go to China. For the last 10 years, I've been teaching kids how to go STEM education and, how to get into Western universities, okay? Weird stuff. But at the end of it, I always do, whoa, you didn't do it. You didn't keep it. Oh, I had a beautiful thing. Yeah, any of you watch Dead Poet Society? Do you remember the ending that he did where he basically goes, the Walt Whitman quote? What verse will you be? Does anyone remember that? It's one of my favorite quotes because we all sit here and wonder what we're doing in the world. And when you're a kid, you don't know. You're just taking classes, you're trying to get the A's or the B's and you're trying to get out. And then later, when you're done with this crazy process, you're like, what do I do now? Please make a verse. Don't be afraid of making a mistake. If there's anything I can do to inspire you, is to get off your butt and do it. My favorite co-working group, when I help do co-working in New York, and there's other people out there. Does anyone know JFDI? Just something, do it. JFDI. Okay? Thank you for your time and allowing me to talk to you. Okay?